Okay, so we're back with another Battleborn Duckers podcast. We have convinced somehow Tim Ruiz to come in studios and talk about Scott's best friends, Scott Fowler's best friends, dogs. Because Tim is he's a big dog trainer and he does really good work. And tell us a little bit about you and your kennel you got there, Tim.
Hey guys, first I want to say thanks for having me on. So my kennel is located in Southern Nevada. We specifically train gun dogs. That's what we do.
You got a gun dog license plate?
I wish I did.
Also already got it, huh?
It was already taken for the DMV. But we specialize in gun dogs, and that is
Camera phone.
retrievers.
Sorry.
No, you're
Go ahead.
No, so we specialize in retrievers, man. And I'm a big guy in pedigrees, man. I believe that a good pedigree to the average duck hunter is going to allow you to make mistakes. You may goof up on training, but a good pedigree is going to allow you to, and the dog better yet, to get past the mistake you made, if that makes sense. You know, they're so bred for this game, for this duck hunting, that you may make a mistake, but they can bounce back.
Really?
A lot quicker.
No, I was talking to a buddy, and he said he got a lab, and he went and bought the $200 special.
Okay.
And then it ended up having like heart problems and hip problems, and with a good pedigree, you kind of avoid that stuff too, right?
Absolutely, man. You get what you pay for, especially with retrievers, just because they're literally the number one breed with AKC. So that means everybody is trying to breed these dogs, but what people don't understand is you can't take, if Joe and Sue have labs, you just can't breed their labs together. There's so many genetic issues that if you pair together, it's going to result in that owner, losing his 2 to 4 year old dog at an early age because of something genetic wise. But if you go for a reputable breeder, they're going to do the genetic testing. They're going to do the hips, the elbows, and everything to make that dog live a longer life, and that's going to benefit the buyer.
Now, you said that you have several dogs and you breed specifically for hunting dogs, right?
Yes, I do.
So what kind of dogs you got?
So I've got chocolate labs, black labs, and yellow labs. I just purchased a little female, 9-week-old black lab. You can kind of see her progress on my Facebook page at All Around Retrievers. I'm having such a good time with it. I just purchased a yellow lab that's coming from Texas. I picked that dog up April 1st.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've seen that on. Man, I wish we could put the video up. Maybe you could put one in for him, Brian. On Tim's Facebook page, he's got All Around Retrievers, right? That's the Facebook page.
That's it, man. That's it.
He's got videos of him constantly running dogs nonstop, and especially that little black lab. She's just doing great, isn't she?
She is, man. I've really wanted to start her early. She's kind of my guinea pig, and it's really working out. Usually I wait till 6 months of age to start the training for gun dogs. And this one, I said, you know what? If she's going to be a part of the family, I'm going to start obedience and stuff like that right now. And it's really paying off. I mean, she's sitting before the marks, and she's doing, right now we got her stretched up to about 55-yard marks.
Yeah.
And just a good little dog.
So what are the fundamentals with obedience? So let's say you get your brand new puppy lab, you pick up a good dog. What since you talked about what are the fundamentals there?
Don't act like Ron.
Hey,
so
boy.
The fundamentals, the concept is if you take a dog at 7 weeks, which is 49 days, that dog is at the prime opportunity to start learning, to start absorbing stuff. So at 7 weeks, man, you can teach that dog hear, heel, sit. But the only thing is you can't do it. You can't force him. Everything is reward based. So you can teach that dog with just regular dog food that he eats every night. And I started using a clicker training with this dog. And then once they do something positive, you hit that little clicker and you give them a treat.
Explain to me what a clicker trainer is.
So it looks like a key fob. You push it, it makes a clicking sound.
Okay.
And every time that dog does something good, you click that, and then you associate that with food. So the dog knows it's doing something good when it hears that click sound.
Don't they? Isn't that what? Isn't that? Don't they do something like that on The Office one time with Dwight?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Was it with
Dwight and Jim?
I think his treat was like chocolate or something.
Like
that.
it was
do something. He would give him a little piece of chocolate.
So it's like a psychological thing.
It is, man, and it goes back to Pavlov's theory: is that a dog can be in tune to a sound to where he knows something good's going to happen, and that's kind of what the clicker training.
That's what the clicker training is. And so I see you running your dog down the hallway. Is that what it is? You like teach him to come and sit on the mat, and you do it
so
quick?
basically the hallway just gives me a little confined space. You know, he can't go left, he can't go right, he can't go behind me. All he can go is down the hall and back to me. So we'll start with just throwing some fun bumpers, and I usually just use a roll-up sock. And he's got nowhere to go but back to me, or back to his place board. And he knows if she goes up on the place board, I'm going to take it, I'm going to do it again. And she just wants to retrieve because that's what she's bred to do. So
that's awesome. So it's never too early to start with training your dogs then?
Oh, no, man. As soon as your first day home with that puppy at 7 or 8 weeks, the training should start.
Now, how early would you bring a dog into the duck blind?
How early would I bring? Okay, so you know what? I see a lot of guys bringing their dog in to the duck blind. In my opinion, a little too early.
Yeah.
I want that dog. I'm not just bringing that dog just to sit. I want that dog to be there to work. I want that dog to be exposed to every element of that duck hunt prior to it setting foot in that duck blind. And what I mean by that is I want that dog associated with gunfire. I want him or her to know that gunfire means ducks. I want her.
You haven't hunted around Ron much then, have you?
Hey, me and Tim went out one day last year, and we missed a bunch of ducks together. It was wonderful.
Yep, I have my good days and I have my bad days, and that was a bad day.
I was talking about that one at Paranagate where there were so many ducks.
Oh my gosh, there were the most I've ever seen, and unfortunately my shooting was off.
No, all of our shooting was off.
Yeah,
it wasn't just
but
you.
anyway, we walked out with some ducks, so
yeah.
I'll take
Anyways,
that.
okay, so back to the question: getting dogs out too early.
I would just get them accustomed to sitting in a blind or sitting with you, associated with gunfire, ducks, retrieving, water. It's kind of like you take your kid out and you take them to football. You don't just throw them in the football game and say, okay, let's hope for the best. You know, that kid's had weeks and weeks of practice ahead of time.
Oh, you're not supposed to do that?
No.
Damn it.
Not at all.
Figure it out as you go, bud. Good luck.
You know what?
Watch out for that big guy.
Don't get me wrong, and there's people that do that, and you know, I'd rather set my dog up for success.
Yeah. No, so when do you think, when is your, like, okay, this dog's ready to go?
So I know this dog is ready to go when it can watch a bumper or a duck fall, go out to that mark, pick it up, bring it back, sit by me and hold that bird. I've worked it in the yard where ducks are flying or I'm launching ducks and we're shooting them and he's actively going picking them up and bringing them back. My obedience is squared away. At that point, once I've laid the foundation, and I would take that dog out. Now, I wouldn't expect, a super retriever series type dog. I would just go out there and sit with the dog and help it as much as I can. If I got to pick up a little pebble and throw it in the water to make a splash so it can see it, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no age limit. It's an obedience factor. When it hits a certain mark, then you're going to take the dog
It's about
out.
building the foundation. So once you have a foundation, because we all know that you get in a duck blind, it's a different environment than taking a test dog out and taking them on a test. There's a different set of stressors. I mean, you take them out on hunt tests, and once you get out to the line, they're ready to go, and they know they got a job to do. You get them in a duck blind, they may sit there for 2 hours doing absolutely nothing, and you shoot at you pass shoot at some ducks, you miss, and that dog's all amped up, and he's got to realize he's got to calm down. So I think if you have a dog without a decent foundation to start with, you're just asking for problems.
Oh my gosh! Do you remember that first time we took Rock out? Like, it was over in blind 40 and Overton. And, we had that first morning flight, and it's always best first thing in the morning, right, Tim?
Yep.
And the ducks are always best. And so we get Rock out. He's a brand new puppy. I made the mistake of throwing a rookie into a football game without any training. And Brian shoots, and we missed a pass or something. Then Rock busts out of the blind. And, I'm trying to chase my dog down the road while all these ducks are taking off everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, it's not even, we watched, we did that hunt test out here. And there's master level dogs that were breaking on the master level, and so it's just one of those things where that's the hardest thing to get a dog to do is hold when there's that stressor. He wants to work
when they're amped up. They want to go.
They want to work, and that's you could certainly get yourself a dog that's bred to be super mellow and chill and just lay in the bottom of the blind all day long and not stress about it. But then they don't have a drive to chase the ducks, so they got to have that game drive to start with. So if you take that game drive out of them, which you want, you're going to have a problem getting them to go retrieve. At the same time, that drive can be a real pain in the butt sometimes too, because it's just getting them to control themselves. And we see it with Rock. I mean, Rock's went after Coots a couple times, and once he gets on that mission, man, he's pretty hard to corral back in.
Did I ever tell you what happened the one time, Tim, that Rock went after a Coot? We're in blind 5, and it's Brian, Scott, and Stubbs. They're all in the blind with me, and we shoot a duck. I send Rock out after it, and he's like, I'm not going to get the duck. There's live ones. And so he starts chasing
You were
them.
adjusting decoys. You went out there just decoys.
Was I adjusting decoys? Okay, so we even have a duck. And so he's running around the backside of the blind, like on the backside of 5, catching Coots, and I'm like, Rock, come here. And Scott's just as pissed as me. Rock, come here. And like, finally he catches one, brings it back, and the whole time Brian and Stubbs are just laughing at me. They think it's the most hilarious
it was
thing
hilarious.
ever.
Dude, he made 4 or 5 laps from one side of 5 to the other side of 5. So
that's funny.
Anyway, so he brings one back and it's alive, and Brian's just sitting there just, how Brian is. He's like busting my chops nonstop while I'm pissed.
Because that's pretty funny.
Because like my dog's misbehaving, so I take this Coot and I take it. I meant to just throw it next to him, but the Coot turned and it was alive. And so the Coot comes right up
Coot
and
flares and smack right in the face. I'm like, I don't like to eat Coot. Unlike Rydell likes to eat Coot, so he probably would have been okay with that. But
have you ever ate Coot?
I've never tried it, but tell
the McGanzer story real quick.
Oh man. So a little bit of backstory on me is, let me see, my kid's 12. So probably 15 years ago, I had my first retriever, golden retriever. Loved her to death. I was that duck hunter that really didn't know anybody, so I just kind of figured it out on my own. It was before YouTube, and we had some success. And when she passed away, I couldn't get another duck dog. It's just something I just didn't have it in me. And then I met my buddy Steve, probably 5 years ago, and he was just a hardcore duck hunter. Goes to Canada every year. And we got to talking, and he's like, "Hey, come out, man. Let's get you back into it." So we went to Overton, and we were in blind 6. Some ducks came over, and I shot, and it fell, and his dog went and got it and brought it back. And my duck ID back then was, "Hey, Steve, what's this?"
Steve guy, huh?
Yeah. He goes, "Hey, that's a McGanzer," and I was like, "Oh, they taste good." And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead, man. You can cook it up."
Oh, dude, you thought you and Steve were tight, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. He was like, "Yeah, man, it tastes really good. Just cook it like you would any duck." So, the day's over with. I get home, and man, I'm plucking this thing, and I am burning the down off of him. I make this thing look really good, and I'm going through, recipes online. And
It's
I'm
Pinterest perfect, huh?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, man, I know how I'm going to cook it. I put it in the oven in the house, with some potatoes and with some onions around. I'm like, this is going to be a good meal. And it's becoming evening, and my wife is in the back, and she's in the back of the house, and I'm sitting there watching TV, and man, I got a real fishy smell. Like my house is starting to smell like there's dead fish in there. And my wife comes out, and she's like, "What is that smell?" And I'm like, "I think it's a duck I'm cooking." She goes, "You need to get that out of my house." So I was like, okay. So I go fire up the barbecue, and I finish this thing off. And as it's cooking, it's getting worse. It's just smelling bad. So it's done. I pull it off the barbecue, and man, I'm dry heaving.
Yeah,
I'm dry heaving at this point. But I'm the mindset of, hey, man, I killed this thing. I'm gonna eat it. Yeah. So I'm outside, and I cut a little sliver, man, and I put it in my mouth, and it as soon as it hit my tongue, man, it came right back out. And I'm like, there's no way I can do this. So at the house we lived in, there's tons of coyotes around here. Yeah. So I said, okay. And I had 2 barn cats at the time. I'm like, I'm just going to leave it on the porch. It's going to be gone in the morning. That thing sat there for 3 days. Nothing touched it. But long story short, man, my wife burned every candle we had in our house for 7 days, and we couldn't get rid of that smell. Long story short, he ended up getting me pretty good with that McGanzer. So.
It's funny because we had Cody, my boy, so my rule has always been, you shoot it, you're going to shoot it to eat it, right? Yeah. So we don't shoot things just to go shoot things. So he's out duck hunting, and he decides he wants to go shoot some coots. And so his buddy was with him, and his mom had told his buddy, "You're not allowed to bring anything home." And so we end up with his ducks and their 10 coots that they decided to take for the day.
A couple young boys. I mean, that's the best thing you shoot is coots.
And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I don't want to eat coot. I really don't want to eat coot. And so my
Even
wife's
when you're
like,
breasting it, it looks nasty.
yeah. And so my wife's like, well, we'll just make some chicken soup. We'll put it in the chicken soup,
I think that'd
you
be
know,
a good way to.
and see how it is, right? And so I'm eating it, man. As soon as I got a piece of that coot, it's just that it tastes like liver. That's the closest thing I got to it. It tastes just like liver. So I'm like,
I'm with you
I'm
on
done.
this.
I'm out, right? And my kid's just
You don't
shoveling
like-
it in his mouth.
You
He
don't
goes,
like liver soup, huh?
I'm like, no. My kid's just shoving it in his mouth, and we're like, well, what's that? How's that coot? What's it taste like, Cody? He goes, just tastes like chicken to me. I'm like, boy, I don't know what the hell kind of chicken you've been eating, but we need to fix that.
Oh man.
Yeah, see, I'm not a liver fan, so I don't think I could.
No. And I made coot jerky once, and only Blaine would eat it.
Oh, really?
So-
You make coot sausage, right?
Oh,
That's coot sausage.
Coot beef sticks about this big.
And Ron's like telling me, he's like, yeah, man, I made some coot sausage. It wasn't that bad. And his business partner's like, no, dude, that was nasty. He goes, well, Blaine ate it, and his business partner's, Blaine will eat anything.
that guy. See,
Okay, so you got labs. You got a lot of labs. What other type of dogs you have?
My wife is into golden retrievers because I've had that one 15 years ago. So we kind of got back in them probably 3 years ago. And the bad part is about golden retrievers is I'd say the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at the show breeds, golden. The big blonde, fluffy,
Big, puffy, cute dogs.
Slow.
They're
Ooh.
good looking dogs, but I'm not going to have one of those in my duck line, man.
I've got it on video. We'll break during this podcast and put that dog on video. The golden
Oh,
retriever you're talking about.
And we got to do that. If we had a video of that poodle, I think that was the only thing slower than those goldens.
Anyways, go ahead. So
No,
your goldens though.
And I'm with you guys. So I did tons of research, man, as much as I could to find out, genetic wise, what's what. And all these dogs come from the East Coast. So we're talking. I've got a golden from Mark Atwater. He's a big breeder. Back east, field golden wise. I've got a golden out of a field trial winner. So I'm trying to get these heavy bred field trial dogs, but all my dogs are house dogs, and these dogs are amazing in the house, man. They're calm, cool, and collected. But when
Are you
it's
talking
time-
about your field trial golden dogs? Are still
Yes.
they have an off switch, huh?
They do, man, big time. Like he'll just sit and he'll watch TV with the kids, or lay on his dog bed. But the second we go, training or something like that, or it's time to go duck hunting, the switch is on and it's getting ready.
No, like watching your dogs with the field trials, you could definitely see the difference between an obedience golden. That's what I call them. Like they're made for the obedience
absolutely.
shows. Like
Yeah.
these dogs would like tiptoe, like it's water, it's water, and like it finally go out and get the duck, and then his dogs acted like a freaking lab that was all amped up on mad.
Yeah, his dogs were. I mean, your dogs actually went and did some work. It's funny because you watch some of these other dogs, and they do as soon as they hit the water, it's kind of they press across the water.
And unfortunately, man, for preference wise, I can't have that. I can't hunt with that dog. And I tell people, good genes, man. It's better to have a dog that's going, and you hold them back than you trying to push that dog. If you want to push that dog to actually run to the duck, it's going to take a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, you could train motivation, but you can't train. You could discipline motivation, but you can't make motivation.
Absolutely right, man. And that's the big thing about golds. And you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. Is that they run every bit as hard as my labs. It just takes a different training. They're more of I can verbally reinforce their training versus an e-collar, or they may need the extra attention in the house than my labs. That's just how they are as a breed. But they're go-getters as much as any lab.
I noticed that your labs are a little bit more like kind of skinny and long than the other labs. Or
Yeah.
no, not your labs, your goldens.
Yeah, so they're built for performance, man. So they're going to be a little bit leaner, a little bit longer legs. Their coats aren't going to be as thick just because you don't want the burrs and stuff in their coat. And all my dogs are the dark red color. And that's kind of what we've tried to put into this breeding program.
How many dogs did you run in the last competition? How many goldens?
So I ran 3 golden in the last one and 2 labs.
And they all got their juniors, right?
Yes. Yep, we got a senior pass, and all my younger dogs got their junior titles.
Let's go ahead and talk about those trials. Like, let's talk about what your junior dogs did in order to get those passes.
So think of a junior test as it just shows what his genetics say he should do.
Okay.
He should be able to watch a duck fall, to go get it, any type of terrain, go over it, go through it, swim through it, retrieve that duck, and bring it back to you in a calm, cool, collected manner. And that just goes back to obedience. But it's just showing what this dog DNA says it should do. and that's
Okay.
all the junior does.
Yeah, so they have to retrieve 4 marks,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
2 on land, 2 on water.
Yep.
And they screw up any of them, they're done.
They are done for the day. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And it basically shows marking ability and retrieving ability.
You make it sound really easy. It's not.
It's not. No.
Like,
no.
so you think, like, if I take Joe off the street with his, like, AKC golden retriever and he's done 0 training, that dog's not going to pass the field
absolutely
trial.
not.
No.
Absolutely not. There's a lot of training that goes into it. Yeah, any retriever will retrieve, but he's got to do it 2-hand. He's got to come back to you at a heel sit. He's got to hold the duck in his mouth until he's asked to drop it. And the marking ability, these marks are anywhere from 50 to 60 yards. I mean, and that's still a pretty good distance. So.
No, it is. It is. And, I mean, a lot of dogs didn't pass.
Oh, yeah. Yep. A lot of the junior dogs.
Brian, you want to tell about your favorite dog?
So we actually had a dog.
Go ahead and tell both stories, like what happened that whole day. I don't know if Tim was out there.
We had some kids out from a program. Ron, I'll probably get these guys on, but we had some kids from a youth program up in Salt Lake that take some troubled kids, and one of their programs is they have a dog training program, and so the Las Vegas Hunter Retrieval Club, they bring these kids in every year to be able to run this hunt test.
And they hire them.
They hire them. They pay them. They pay for their hotel rooms. They pay their entry fees. They let these kids will work, but they also run their dogs that weekend too.
Nice.
So one of these kids that had, it was just everything that could go wrong for this poor kid. The first day of juniors went wrong. It was his first junior trial. So they get a bird. They wing the bird. The bird was still alive. The bird was running.
Dogs never chased
This
down a
dog's
live bird.
never really. He's been on a couple live birds, but doesn't have experience on live birds. And so, as soon as that bird would start to run away from him, the dog would shy from that bird. So it was a little bit of an issue with the shooters on that one. And that dog had never. A lot of these junior dogs that these kids were bringing, they hadn't seen certain situations. They don't get a lot of time with live birds. So when they mouth a live bird, a lot of them had issues with that because it was something different. It's warm versus the cold birds that they train with, right? And so this kid was, he was already upset because his dog didn't pass that junior trial. And so he goes, let him up in the truck, takes him off the lead. The dog bolts, goes right back out in the field.
Oh, man.
So the kid's chasing the dog, and man, the kid's upset. I'm like, dude, relax. It happens.
Well, it's a little embarrassing. You're at these field
It
trials, and
is.
there's tons of professionals watching, and then your dog's running through the field. And that I can see being embarrassed.
And so he was pretty upset. And I'm like, just relax. It's not the worst thing that can happen. The dog did pretty good. You got a rough draw, and he's like, yeah, but nobody else's dog's running away today. Well, come the end of that session, and we actually have one of the members of the club that this dog will run master retrieves. He'll do everything a master dog will do until he gets to a hunt test.
Oh, no.
When he gets to a hunt test, this dog is a complete and total jerk. So this dog gets out in the field. They drop the bird.
The live bird.
Live. He goes and picks it up, runs around in a circle. They call him back. He runs halfway there, looks at him, runs back out in the field, runs around in some more circles. So now he's just like, he's done, right? The dog rips the duck into 3 pieces, scatters the 3 pieces out.
4 guys chasing in the field.
Man.
4 guys chasing the field. 15 minutes, to get this dog down. Well, what happened was that kid was actually the winger on that shooting stand.
Yeah.
And so that kid got to watch the whole thing. His dog was out for 2 minutes maybe, right? They caught him pretty quick. The dog
Dog came back to him.
Yeah, he came back to him. And this dog, we're talking about a guy that has hours and hours and hours of training on this master level dog, and the dog just imploded. And so that helped that kid get through that little bit of misfortune.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely that would. And it was bad for the master hunter dog, but it was good for that kid to actually see.
I will tell you, the guy that's there, it was Ray, and he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, did that kid get to see that?" And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, sucks your dog, you had a bad outing with your dog, but I think it was good for him. He goes, no, I'm glad that kid got to see that because he can see that it can happen to anybody at this point.
Yeah,
so
and that's got to be disheartening, but that got to put a little bit more pep in that kid's step. So.
What do they always say? You don't know what kind of dog you're getting until you get to the hunt day, like the test day, because they all,
man.
like they start being crazy.
Well,
get out there.
I think we all would. You figure you get out there, and these dogs are used to doing some training and stuff, and depending on how hard you train them, but man, especially if you get a later dog in a draw, They've been around that shooting all day. They've been around dogs barking all day. They've been cooped up in a truck or whatever, however you're holding your dog. Mm-hmm. They've been cooped up. They maybe get out for 20 minutes beforehand to just get some of the energy out. But these dogs are wanting to go anyways, and now they hear that gunshot. Those dogs, that's their go time. And so now they're hearing it 30, 40 times before they get a run. Those dogs are so amped and burnt by the time they get up to the line. It's just incredible that they can even hold together as long as they can.
Oh, yes. I mean, yeah, like you said, man, they're just sitting there listening and hearing the quacks and hearing the gunshots. It builds up that anticipation.
Yeah, that's why I leave my dogs at home until it's time to go. I make my wife drive them down like half an hour.
You're going to have an issue if you take your dog out of town.
I know I am. Anyways, okay, so you got your retrievers, you got your labs, you got any other ones?
I got a few German short hairs too, and that's just because I'm an upland guy. So my German short hairs they're what you call they're an abder bred, and an abder bred short hair is a dog that will hunt upland, hunt waterfowl, track fur. It's just a huge umbrella that these dogs will cover. I did bring my short hair out duck hunting a couple times, dove hunting. They're great. I mean, they can't stand the colder waters that your retrievers can handle, but they're really good dogs.
How do you think a golden retriever compares to a lab in that cold water?
I think a little bit better, just because they've got a longer coat.
Really?
I really do. They've got that, 4 or 5 inches of coat that's a little bit longer. They've got feathering, around their stomach, their hind end, their legs, and stuff like that. So
I remember one hunt we took Rock out. We took him out to Sunnyside. It was so cold we went to launch the boat and the motor froze.
That's crazy.
Like, man. The motor was. I told you the story, all right? I'm going to tell it anyways. Anyways, so we leave the motor, we leave the boat, and we go and shoot an ice hole. We found an ice hole with a few ruddies in it. We drop it, and Rock runs out, and I knew how deep it was because we'd been out there last weekend. He runs out and jumps into that ice, and he can't get back out. And so I run out, and I break through the ice and pull him out. But he gets out of the water, and the icicles just form.
I mean, that was the craziest day. I mean, it was sub-zero, and we're walking along, and my beard's literally freezing as we take steps. And every time I move my face, all you hear is just crack, and it's pulling all the hair. Rock's got icicles hanging off of him. I mean,
but he didn't want to go back to the truck. He was okay. He was happy.
Oh, yeah.
We put the vest on him, and
yeah, man, that's where the drive and the pedigree comes in. Would I want to go out and get that duck? No, but they will, and they'll do it over and over and over again.
Do you think that's animal abuse? A lot of people think that's animal abuse.
No,
that's what they're bred for, man. That's what they're happy doing. It's just, it's kind of like you run a cattle dog on cattle, and there's a natural instinct that people don't realize. I mean, you can take a good herding dog with almost no training, and they'll herd cattle. I mean, that's just it's bred into them, and so you take them out there, and these cattle dogs are getting kicked by cows and stuff like that, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's mean." That's what they're there for, and that's where they're the happiest. You're not gonna. One of the biggest problems you have in breeds, like your working breeds and your hyper breeds, your labs and stuff, is people want to leave them locked in the house, and they don't want to give them the time to exercise. Yeah, and they're gonna get destructive because they need something to do. They need a job.
Oh yeah,
and the labs and stuff, and that's one of the problems with labs is you get him out in that cold water, and if we would have kept running Rock all day, and he would have been in that water all day long, he wouldn't have cared. But it gets to a point where he'll keep going even when it's not safe for him to go anymore. Yeah. So as handlers, you got to be really cognizant of where you're at with your dog and what point do you call it a day and for the safety of your dog.
It's not just your dog, it's your best friend.
Yeah, I mean...
he's a dumb friend. He's really dumb because he'll run until he's dead.
Yeah.
That's why you're hanging out with me, because I'm the other dumb friend. So
Brian's like voice. He's like, Ron, listen, you can't keep going in the ice water.
That's funny. No, but you're right. They'll keep doing it, and you got to pay attention, when it's time to quit. And it's funny that you use the cattle dog scenario. Yeah, cattle dog will get kicked right in the head, and they'll come back 2 seconds later and ask for more, just like your lab. He'll bust through ice and come to you, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to bust through ice again.
Well, the funny thing is I was out there, and I was rearranging decoys, and I was like, Rock, go back to shore. And I was like, Brian, call him. And he'll usually listen to Brian, like maybe 50% of the time, right, Brian?
Yeah, we're blind enough. I mean, that dog sees me almost as much as that dog sees his family. So,
anyways, I was like, go back to Brian, and Ryan's like, he's not going to go back to me, man. He's worried that you're going to die.
He's worried
He
you're
was like
gonna
just
die.
running around the ice, like circling me.
He was just watching out for you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know what he's going to do. He wasn't going to be able to pull me out. Anyway, so what do you think some of the signs are that you're running your dog too hard? You got any suggestions?
I would check, his movement. Is he getting lethargic? Is he just sitting there and, look at his eyes. If his eyes are no longer on the sky and it's just heads down and, his demeanor's changed, maybe it's time to call it,
Yeah, what do you think? What are some good post like hard hunt day things that you do for your dogs?
So I don't feed my dogs before we go hunting,
Hungry dogs work better.
Yeah.
It has to be.
And I bring, it's funny that you say that because years ago they had dog protein bars like for energy bars, but they don't have them anymore. So I called my vet. I said, hey, what can I give my dog on these, 3-hour, upland hunts or waterfowl hunts? And he just said, hey, just give him a peanut butter power bar.
Yeah,
So I packed those with me. And
they freaking love them, man.
yeah, they do. And it does the trick. It really does. I may do some electrolyte powder in their water.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That's about it. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you, what is the difference between the AKC test and the hunt test you just recently went to?
The UKC.
So AKC and UKC are the same things. You're kind of doing the same function with the hunt test. Your dog's marking, your dog's retrieving. I would say UKC is a little bit more adapted for waterfowl hunters because you're actively shooting at the ducks. Now, granted, you're shooting poppers at the ducks, but your dog's still listening to that gunfire. The dog's still tracking your gun. The scenarios are a little bit more technical with UKC as it goes for walk-ups or breaking birds.
Explain what you mean by technical.
So the last test I went to was for Arizona. It was Copper State Retriever Club. Shout out to those guys, man. They did an awesome job. So the test we went to is, so you're in a holding blind. A holding blind is where your dog sits and he patiently, knock on wood, patiently waits for your and his turn to go up. So you go to the very last holding blind, you sit your dog, you unleash your dog, so you've got no connection with this dog. He can't wear a collar, he can't wear a leash, he has to be at a sit and a heel. So at that point, that scenario was, you are going to exit the holding blind with your dog at heel. You are going to walk a straight line for about 15 yards. At any point in this 15 yards, they're going to launch a duck. You're going to have to raise up your shotgun. You're going to have to shoot the duck. Simultaneously, your dog is going to have to sit and be patient and wait for you to release that dog. So we walk up there. The good thing about UKC is you can talk to your dogs too. So I walk up there. I see the duck coming. I raise the shotgun. I tell Shelby to sit. She sits. I shoot the bird. It falls. I wait a couple seconds. I don't want her breaking for future references, so I wait a couple seconds, and then I send her to release the bird. She has to bring the bird at a heel. After that, I take the bird. We have to do an abrupt 90, and now we're going to walk towards the station to where the hunt test happens. So there's usually a bucket up there. So now she has to walk at a heel without anything on her. Another 15 yards. We do that. We sit on the bucket. We take a deep breath. I talk to her, tell her to sit, easy, watch. That time I'm loading up my shotgun. I'm loading 2 shells in. You've got birds coming at about 70 yards. So you've got 2 birds going one right after another. Your dog has to be able to remember each mark. Has to sit calm, cool, and collected and not be verbal. Watch your marks. Listen to you. So I do a duck call, quack, quack, quack. That tells the station, hey, launch the birds. Bird 1 gets launched at about 65 yards. We do an abrupt 90. Go to the next gunning station. That one launches. We shoot it. She has to be able to sit. I have to make my gun safe, put it down while she's sitting. Then I send her on the go bird, which is the last bird she just saw. I send her to that one. She brings it back. Then she has to follow me around to face the other bird. I send her to that one. She has to remember the memory bird. She brings that one into me. She sits. That station's over with. That time, we get up. We walk to a duck that's been planted. It's like your dog may be on a retrieve out in the test or out in hunting, and you shoot another duck, and he doesn't know or she doesn't know where it fell. So then you have to set up a blind. The blind is they didn't see it fall, but they have to be lined up. be ready to take hand signals.
That's a real hunting scenario, because if you get 4 or 5 ducks to come in and all 4 of you drop one, they're not going to know where that.
It's not even that. So a lot of times when we're hunting in Overton, so those dogs are actually in the blind where they have no visual reference where those ducks are falling. So they're complete. Every duck they run is pretty much a blind out there. So
yep, and that's where this. And during the off season, these hunt tests are amazing because it's going to tighten up everything that you need to tighten up for Overton, specifically for Overton, because your dog is, 90% of the time doing a blind retrieve. So after you get her out and you sit her in that blind, you raise a shotgun, you shoot in the general direction of the blind, make your gun safe, make your gun clear, put it down. And at that point, we got to line her up. The blinds are usually around 50 to 60 yards. Line her up in a straight line. You send her, and if she gets offline at any point, you got to give her a whistle set, and then you can hand direction, left, right, back. That's where the blind is.
So it's a lot more. It's a lot more hunting related then.
It is, man. If you're a duck hunter and you want to get your dog squared away for duck season, I highly recommend these UKC events. AKC is the same thing, but you can't talk to your dog. You can't say anything to your dog. Once your dog is unleashed, there's no telling that dog to sit. There's no telling that dog to stay. Someone
told me that master level AKC dogs are hard to take hunting.
You know what? I've heard that too, man. I have. I heard if it's funny that you say that, because I just heard a podcast the other day, and they were saying, man, if you're going to run your dog in the Grand or a field trial, or you're going to heavily compete in it, you're not going to want to hunt it. And am I a believer in that? I honestly don't know, man, because all my dogs, no matter at what level, I'm going to hunt my dogs regardless.
Well, I think it's hard. I think it'd be hard to run a dog that you're regularly hunting in the field. I think it'd be hard to run them at master level, because not just the dog's habits, but your habits, right? So we talk to our dogs when we're in a blind, right? I mean, that's one of the things about having a dog in the blind is it's you have another partner in that blind, and it's another member of that family, basically. And so we're talking to them, we're petting them, whatever. And so you're going to have that desire a lot of times to do that when you're doing your hunt trials. And so, and for that dog, it's got to be confusing. So you get out there, and now you're not going to talk to me, but you talk to me every other time we're in the blind together. It's what are you doing? And I think one of the things that I noticed is the difference between like a junior level and a senior level test is, I think one of the hardest things these dogs have an issue with is, number one is not breaking, right? Mm-hmm. I know one of your dogs got nailed on the junior fruit. She had an extra
senior, right?
She had a senior, man.
Extra step, and that's all it took.
She broke, and that's all it took. That was the end of the test right there.
And the other thing is honoring, and so once your dog's done, they got to sit and honor the other dog as the ducks get launched. And I think that senior test, I don't know, there must have been probably 10 dogs that didn't honor, and that's. It's hard for a dog because they're excited. It's game time for them too. And so they want to work, and you just had them out working, and now they're like, oh, more ducks. I get to go play some more. And so I think that's one of the hardest things is you've got to really rein those dogs back in to be able to get them to sit.
I have a hard time telling my dog to sit, because he's like, that's his prize. That's what he lives for. Like, he's Rock's walking around depressed right now. He's been depressed for days.
That's just because his girlfriend's mad at him.
Oh, well, that's what happens when you knock her up. So, anyways, no, like even at the master level test, I watched one guy's dog get broke and went after another dog. Actually took out the other dog.
Oh, bummer, man.
Didn't break any skin or anything, but afterwards, and this was the guy at Starlight Kennels. I don't know if you know those folks. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of tuned up dogs.
Oh yeah,
really good dogs.
They are.
And I was like, is that your hunting buddy? He goes, yeah, that thing retrieved thousands of geese for me this year. And I was like, that makes sense why it broke.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is, man. A lot of guys will let their dog break during hunting season, and then come hunt test season, you got to hurry up and tune them up, man.
Well, I don't know about that, but like you don't want to, if he's chasing geese, you don't want to break that out of him. He has to be kind of mean.
Yeah, especially with those geese, man. Yeah, he's got to have a little bit.
They got to have that prey drive. If they don't have that prey drive, and I think with a hunting dog, you really want a super high level of prey drive, because there's going to be times where, a dog, if it's a little bit timid and you get a goose around them. It's almost the same size as that dog.
Mm-hmm.
Those timid dogs aren't going to survive that goose. They're going to be done after the first like
Have you
30
seen those
seconds.
videos
So-
of the geese like smacking the
Yeah.
retrievers in the head.
And so they got to have enough prey drive to where that goose doesn't bother them. And if you got a crippled goose, then they're going to go take care of the crippled goose. That's their job. And so it just makes it, I think, a little bit more difficult because you're kind of working two different spectrums. You don't want to take that drive out of them, but at the same point, that drive is really not a great thing when you're running a test dog, because that drive is when they're going to break. That drive is when they're not going to honor. That those things can be problematic in that scenario. But I think they both have their strengths. I think you could take a dog that you've hunt tested quite a bit, and maybe you got to the point where even if it's a master level dog and you're done, they've done everything. They got their masters, you got to nationals, whatever. That's a great time to take those dogs out and now just let them relax and get them on ducks, because they will learn how to run ducks. They'll learn how to run them in a hunting scenario versus in a competition scenario. They'll adapt, and then it becomes nothing but fun, because those master level dogs, that's a job for them, right? Those guys are putting so much money in. And these guys are running 20 dogs at a competition. Some of those guys, it's crazy how many dogs they run. Yeah. And so for those dogs, it's always business. There isn't that playtime. And, the duck dogs, we get them in the blind, it's all playtime. And then we ask them to go do a hunt trial or a hunt test, and it's business time then. Yeah. So it's just a different thing. I think that's going to be one of the hard things with Rock if he transitions into the senior level, is getting him to sit.
He's real quick now.
No, that's my buddy. I'm not gonna. I don't want to do it. He shouldn't have to do it. That's like you tell me not to shoot at ducks when they're flying by. No.
That's like trying to tell you not to go out and rearrange the decoys.
Yeah, I know. There's a little price jump in how much your pups go for between masters and juniors and seniors, but nice. I mean, Tim likes to do it, and Tim does the competitions, but that's not my passion. I love duck hunting, and Tim loves duck hunting just as much as me. But I had another question for you. What are your price points on your dogs?
You said it kind of goes back to titles. For me, the higher the title is going to make a price jump in my puppies. So I got my go-to dog. I love this dog to death. Yeah. She's my dog. Shelby. Shelby's going to have a litter here probably within 2 or 3 months. She'll have her senior and her seasoned title. And then I picked a male out of California, and he's a HRC. He's a hunter retriever champion and a master hunter. So these pups will be priced at about $1,500.
$1,500. Okay. How about your pointers that you have coming out?
So I got a litter on the ground right now, and they're priced at about $900.
$900.
A big thing is that it's more money than Joe Schmo that's on Craigslist. But once again, man, you get what you pay for. Like all my dogs have been tested in either short hairs or NA prize one dog. So, and that just basically says, hey, these dogs are going to hunt. My female is an ex-guide dog. She guided for an outfit in Utah she's 5 years before I got her. They come with a health warranty. That price includes a 26-month health warranty. If you have any problems with your hips, elbows, genetics, anything like that, you can have a puppy from a different litter.
Yeah. No, I'm not balking at the price. I think the price is super reasonable. I mean, I was talking to some of these trainers that have master level dogs and big kennels. I was like, how much do you sell yours for? And they're like $2,500.
You know what?
And so your price for your quality of dog is a bargain deal.
Well, and if you're going to put $1,500, $2,000 into a dog, but then these guys that are really wanting to get these dogs, especially if you want to get your dog to a master level, you're looking at $800 a month in training on top of it. So the $2,000 is really just a drop in the bucket for a lot of these dogs. I mean, 2 years of training at $800 a month is,
it adds up.
These dogs aren't cheap. And even just a good pedigreed dog isn't cheap. I mean, you look at solid breed dogs. I mean, and there were some dogs out there. It was crazy. One of my favorite dogs to watch were those standard poodles. A couple standard poodles running this, and these things, they did great on land, man. They were good on land. They hit that water, And it was like you put them into slow motion. I was telling the one guy from Starlight Kennels, I'm like, man, that dog's got 4-wheel drive low down, because that dog didn't go more than, half a mile an hour. And he's like, yeah, I'm not the guy to train this dog, because he's used to running fast labs and, get that. But people are paying really good money for these pedigree dogs, and without the ability to go hunt. So how much are people paying for a stupid toy poodle to shove in a backpack, right?
Oh man, those crossbreed dogs are labradoodles and poodles, and they're $2,500, $3,400 dogs.
But back to Tim's dogs, when you get a dog from All Around Retrievers, you're getting a dog that Tim has taken out, he's hunted with.
Yes.
He knows they're good, and he knows they're coming from a good line. So even if you're not going to run masters, you're not going to run seniors, you're not going to do these hunt trials, but you're like, I just want a good hunting buddy, I want a good house companion. Yes. That's what most people want. I want a hunting buddy, I want a house companion. I don't want to do a lot of work to train it, I want some natural ability. If you go get a dog off Craigslist, or you go get a dog off KSL Classified, it's a crapshoot. I got really lucky with my dog. Got stupid lucky with my dog that he is so good. But if I were to do it again, I would go to a breeder, because I want that quality in my dog. I don't want to get a dog, because you've heard people that get out with their labs and they go to duck hunt and the lab doesn't want to retrieve.
Yes.
Well, it's
like going to the store and buying, I'm just going to buy the quad that's the cheapest. And then when you go out and take it, it always breaks down.
Well, it's a crapshoot, really. If you're going to get a dog that doesn't have a lineage, that doesn't have the hunting background, and you can go heck down to the mall and grab a dog out of one of the pet stores that's AKC registered, right? But you have no idea what the history on that dog is. You don't know where it came from. You don't know what the bloodlines are. Yeah, they're AKC registered and whatever, but was it a hunting family? Because there's people don't realize. I have a friend that raised show dogs, and they did labs. That was one of their things. And there are several different standards for a lab, and some are hunting dogs and some are not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's and it's in their breed standards. So you'll have dogs that are bigger that's not their forte. These leaner dogs that they're athletic. They're bred to be athletic hunting dogs, and and then you've got to have that mentality bred into them. So if it came from a hunting line, it's not going to guarantee that dog's going to be a excellent hunting dog, but man, it gives you a big head start on knowing that dog's going to be pretty good chance that dog's going to be a good hunting dog. You're always going to have. There's some dogs that are just built different, right?
Yes.
So
life's a box of chocolates.
Yeah, they're just not right in the head, and you're going to have that from time to time. But at least when you're coming from a lineage that or a good set of working dogs, a good set of hunting dogs, that you have a pretty good chance of having something you can work with in the end. So,
and you're not paying that much difference. Like you go to a pet store, you're going to pay the same price, if not more.
You're going to pay more.
Yeah. But if you go to Joe Schmo at the street, labs are still $500. And you sell labs for cheaper than that, don't you? At times, no, I guess not. You're probably up there. You've done a lot of work with the genetics, so they're all going to be around that price.
That seems to be my price range. It may give or take a little. But it goes back, if you want a hunting dog, my lineage, and it's going to say that mom hunted, dad hunted.
Yeah.
I can show that on a piece of paper by the titles they earned. And I try to. All of my dogs cost me more than $1,500, and the reason for that is the dogs I bring into my house. I'm trying to give the average hunter, the 40-hour a week guy that hunts on the weekend. I want to give him an opportunity to have a highly talented, well-bred dog that he may not be able to afford, but that's always been my goal. And it's funny that you said, they want a family dog and a hunting dog, and the motto of my kennel is from family to field, man. If these dogs can't come in my house, 300 days a year and be collected and calm, then that's not the kind of dog I want. That's not the kind of dog I want to breed.
No, that's awesome. I don't think you could ask for much more. And when you think about it from the long-term aspect, how long does a dog live?
So you got labs, 12 years, 13 years?
Yeah, so you're paying a little extra, like maybe $1,000 extra for something that's going to be with you for 12 years.
But
you might as well put the extra money in.
Think about it from that standpoint. You're looking at $100 a year.
Yeah,
is what you're really looking at. It's $100 a year. You're gonna have a dog like him. And I know I had a dog that I think he was 16 when he found the pasture. You're gonna get some of these dogs that are gonna live a little bit longer. But man, and even just the companionship. What would you pay for? there's people that go pay that much money for a night
What
with
would you
a,
pay for your
with a
best
prostitute.
friend?
Yeah.
But you know, they will just for that companionship of a person. They'll pay $1,500 for a night. You know, and so for a dog you're going to have, it's going to be around you, going to be around your kids, in and out of blind. So you may have, you know, you're looking for a dog and you've got young kids that are really young. It may be a dog just for you to get out into a blind right now, but in 10 years, your kids are going to be in the blind with that dog. And so you want it to be something that you can enjoy and they can enjoy. And, you know, it's worth the money for that.
And there's nothing better than having a dog in a blind. You know, like I remember earlier this year, me and Scott were in a blind and we dropped a teal and we're watching Rocco get this teal. And when a dog goes to get a duck, you're just like in a trance. Like you can't look away for some reason.
No,
and this Rock's getting Rock's out there getting a duck, and all of a sudden, like this group of teal land over there, and we didn't even see it until they took off again. We're like, oh man, we missed all those because we're out watching the dog.
You're right. Yeah, man, it's like a trance, especially if you got a cripple on the water and you're like, ooh, this is going to be good. And it's like you're just so focused on your dog because all that work, you know, now you finally got to watch it.
Well, it's just kind of cool just to watch it. So I know Rock, if you send him, because like I said, Overton's a lot of blind retrieves, and so you'll send him in a general direction, and he'll be kind of looking forward as he's swimming, and he's just kind of dawdling along. Man, as soon as he sees that duck, man, he tucks his head under that water and he's gone. Yep. I mean, he and Ron and we dropped it was a McGanzer this year, I think.
It was a McGanzer.
They got dropped. And this thing, Rock goes out to get it, and it's crippled. And he goes out to get it, and it goes under the water.
It's playing the
right
peekaboo game, man.
And so Rock's like looking around, so he sees it, so he turns back. It does this like 3 or 4 times. Finally, it goes under, and Rock goes entirely under the water, comes back up with his McGanzer and swims it back. So,
and that's so much fun to see. It really is, man.
And like everybody, like even you bring new guys out, and they start cheering and clapping when the dog gets the duck, and you're like, oh, I forgot how exciting this is.
It is, man. I don't think I would duck hunt if I didn't have a dog, and that's just to be honest, man. It's just the dog.
What got you into this? Like one to open a kennel and everything.
So back in probably the mid '90s, there was that show on ESPN, Super Retriever Series.
Oh, you told me this. Go ahead.
And I was just watching these guys. And these dogs were doing like 225-yard marks, and I was in grade school, and I was just like enthralled that, you know, these dogs were taking hand signals, and it kind of really piqued my interest there. Then when, you know, I got married, I got my first golden, and I started duck hunting, and then I was like, man, it doesn't get anybody than sitting in the duck blind with your dog. Then after he passed, I got into horses, man.
Well, that's a big mistake right there.
I was.
They thought dogs were expensive.
That's where you went wrong.
I did, man, and I did it for a living. It was my job. I trained horses for probably 8 years. 8 years I did that, and I tell people it kind of set me up to train dogs.
Except for they wouldn't bring the ducks back.
Yeah, bring something else back, but. And it kind of just went into there, man. I kind of took all this horse training knowledge I had, and I kind of put it towards a dog. You know, you've got your pressure and release. There's a certain way to train a dog, and a certain way not to train a dog that's going to get you faster results, just like horses. So I just started reading about dog psychology, and I'm like, man, this kind of relates to horse psychology. And it just started, and then I got my dog and trained her myself, and then I got a phone call, hey, you trained my dog, and I was like, yeah, you know, I can do that. It just kind of took off. Like now I'm booked for the rest of the year with client dogs. And I don't take many. I take 3 in at a time. But that's 4 months I got to commit to these dogs. And I tell myself I won't take any more because I don't want to take away from a client dog.
And your own dogs, too.
Yeah, and I got to train my dogs on top of that. So.
No, and I've been out with you when you train, and it's just you're really tuned up. I mean, there's a lot of money that goes into training. I mean, you have – how much equipment do you have?
I mean, you've got your wingers, your electronics, your bird launchers, your pigeon coop, your duck coop, your dog trailer. You know, it's never ending.
And then the dog food and the vet bills, and then like it always seems like you turn around, there's something new going on with your dog, some new medical issue.
Yeah, and that's why I'm a firm believer in dog insurance. You know, just like people insurance. You know, it's saved me thousands.
Has it really?
It really has.
God, I had another question. What about? How do you feel about shock collars and the e-collars? Like, what's a word of caution you give to people about those?
I am on board. I'm on board with e-collars. I am, because there's a time and a place, and the word there was time and a place. Your dog has to know what you're asking before you just strap one of those things on and go to town. You want to make it really clear what means what before you hit that button. You know, it has to be there has to be a lot of preparation into the e-collar. Has to go into collar work, choke chain work, and then your e-collar, and then you simultaneously use your e-collar, you know, with your choke chain. And then you take away the choke chain, and then you've got your e-collar. But it usually, before I strap an e-collar on a client dog, it's 2 to 3 weeks of obedience and collar work.
I see some of these new guys out there with their brand new dogs in the field, just like relling on the e-collar. I'm like, I don't even think that dog knows what you're asking.
Well, and they don't. I think you have to build the level of trust with a dog before you start sparking them, right? So I mean, you haven't built any trust, and now you're going to just cause pain and discomfort, and it goes a long ways. It'd be kind of like there's a lot of things I can do. Ron and I are from the medical field. If I just walked up and shoved a needle in your arm, we're probably gonna fight, right? But if we build up a level of trust, then probably not gonna fight as much.
Brian.
Yeah, exactly. But so it's the same thing. You have to build a relationship before you start being overly aggressive.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. There has to be not only a mental preparation, but there's got to be physical preparation for that dog to be ready for that e-collar. And then even when you use the e-collar, not every dog uses the same, level of stimulation. That dog may be a 1, or a 1 may be a too much, so you switch to the vibrate portion of the collar. And then you may get a really thick-headed dog that's a 6, and he barely feels it. So you kind of just got to...
That'd be rock.
Hey, so what's your favorite dog story? You got a favorite one?
I do. I got 2, man.
Okay, let's hear them.
So my first lab... was his name, the Birdie. She was a black lab. And I remember walking out of Overton one day. We were walking back to the truck. Hunt was over with. And she's ahead of me, and she's just sniffing around. And all of a sudden, her ears perk up, and she just dives in the brush. And like 10 seconds later, she comes out with a mallard. Just a beautiful mallard. I'm like, and that's when you know, like, hey, man, I really got a good dog. This dog's going to do it for me. And long story short is that dog ended up having... issues during her pregnancy. She had a pyometria, and she had an infection of the uterus. So I lost the puppies, and unfortunately, I couldn't no longer keep that dog in my kennels because I was trying to build my breeding program at a time. So I gave her to a guy that's just going to duck hunt. So that leads me to Shelby. It was Shelby's first year duck hunting, and it was kind of depressing because I put so much time into Birdie that it was going to be tough for me. It was going to be tough for me to make her my go-to dog. So once again, man, we were walking out at the end of the day. She's in the brush, ears perk up, she jumps in, and all of a sudden she brings Dad back a mallard. And I've got that picture on my wall, and that's when I knew, like, all right, man, this is gonna happen. I've got a good dog. And those are probably my 2 favorite stories with them.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, I think, are we close?
Yeah, we're about sitting right around just about an hour. So.
No, you did. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Tim.
No,
you got
thanks
anything
for
else
having
you
me,
want to
guys.
add? Anything else we forgot?
No, man. If you guys, want to check me out on Facebook at All Around Retrievers,
Yeah.
I've also got a webpage for my kennels, and that's www.allaroundretrievers.com. Kind of gives a little list of, me, my dogs, my kennel. And if you guys want a retriever or short hair training, please look me up on the internet. Or if you just want to come out and work some dogs, please. I'm always looking for people to tag along and
Yeah, I can't say thanks enough for you helping me out with my dog and kind of helping me tune up with my dog and, just going out and hunting with me. It's always nice to have Tim in the blind.
Well, and you can see Tim even working his dog. So Tim was part of a Beck's ad. Beck's Sunglasses are good friends over there. So they had him on one of their segments, so with his dogs and running his dogs and stuff. So, Beck's and All Around Retrievers, both of them are pretty good guys to have around our hometown, man. And Jason's really good, and he's good to the community. And it's good to see you out there with Jason and doing that because it's kind of give everybody a little bit of exposure. So,
absolutely. No, and I agree with you, man. This is a good community we have out here, and you guys are doing one heck of a job with your podcast. You honestly are, man. I took a trip to Arizona and I listened to you guys.
You listened to us all the way, huh?
I did, man. And one of my favorite podcasts that you guys had was when you were talking about bringing your kids out deer hunting. I think you guys talked about the last deer season.
yeah.
But, and one of the things I was listening to, and it was like, they may be experiencing it for the first time, but you as a dad, you've experienced a deer hunt. And you can't even count how many times, and you may be a little bit hard on your kid during these hunts. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I've been there, man. I've honestly expected too much out of my kid at a hunt. Like, why didn't you take that shot? Why didn't you do that? And it kind of was cool to kind of sit back and be like, okay, that was me at one point.
Oh, that's still me.
But and I think we as dads, we want the best for our kids, right?
Yeah,
so we want them
to
do it the easy way and not to have to learn the hard lessons, but sometimes it takes having to learn that hard lesson to get it right and to get to where the level to where you're comfortable with it later on. So, but it's a hard lesson for a dad to learn in the moment, especially. So
it is.
You can get pretty excited and amped up.
Yeah, you do, and you just kind of got to take a step back, take a breath, and let your kid absorb what he can.
Man, you had one heck of a year though. You brought a couple new hunters out for that deer hunt. Borrowed my muzzle loaders.
No, man, I did.
Oh, you got to tell that story about the one kid and
man. So, excuse me. So my neighbor ended up having 2 youth tags for deer out of Ely, and he said, "Hey, man, we've gone deer hunting there before, and we've never seen a deer. And I've hunted that area since I was in 6th grade.
How do you not find a deer there?"
And I'm like, man. And he was like, "Hey, can we go scouting this weekend? And see if we can see deer." And I called Ron and I said, "Hey, man, can we borrow your muzzleloader?" And he goes, "Hey, take your muzzleloader. It's muzzleloader season. To get these kids in some deer." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Why am I going to go scouting when it's actually time to hunt?" So I told him, his name's Greg. I said, "Greg, we're going to get you deer probably the first day." And he goes, "That's not going to happen. The first day?" I said, "Well, that both tags filled by this weekend." So we get up to Ely, probably around noon. It's late.
Yeah.
So we're driving and see a doe 35 yards off the road, and one of the younger boys gets out and he sets up on some shooting sticks and he shoots, man, and he misses. You can just see his level of confidence kind of weigh on him. Okay, so hey bud, it's okay, that happens, man. You've hunted ducks, you've hunted deer, you're gonna miss. That's just part of it. It's better to miss than to take to make a bad hit.
Yeah.
So it's his brother's turn. So we drive 30 minutes down the road. Same scenario. Brother gets out, shoots it, deer drops. First day's coming to an end. We're cleaning it, packing it in the cooler. It's starting to get dark. We go home. Next day, brother's turn again. We're driving, it's daylight, and we see a couple doe. I think it was 60 yards from the truck. He gets out again. He misses, and you can just see the pressure on this kid really starting to weigh. He's really taking it hard. Again, man, give him a little pep talk. It happens. Don't worry about it. There's going to be more deer down the road. This is the best time to see it. So we drive down the road, and we see deer running up a hill, and they almost reach the peak of the mountain. And he gets out, and I get my rangefinder out, and it's at about 136. And he goes, "Hey, can I take a shot?" And I said, "With the muzzleloader, it's kind of hard. Nevada is no scope. It's all open sight. It's hard, but hey, you know what, man? I believe in you. You can make this shot." So he gets up.
You didn't believe in him.
He gets up on the bipod, and you can see his breathing. You can see him hold his breath, man, and he cracks one off. And I got my binos on this doe. At 136 yards, he drops her. Drops like a Sagittator, man. And I look over at this kid, and I'm like, "Dude, that was one
uphill at 136 yards."
Yeah. It was amazing. Dropped it, dude. Perfect shot right behind the shoulder, man. It fell. And I was just like, "This is amazing." Did I think he was going to make the shot? I honestly didn't. Did I think I could make that shot? There's no way. But yeah, man, he dropped it, and
dude, how pumped was he?
He was stoked, man. Both of them.
You're a lot nicer than Ron and I, because my kid missed the first couple days on his first deer hunt, and we were just brutal. I mean, we made fun of him for the entire day.
If it was my own son, I probably would have picked at him.
Well, no, the difference was he was shooting at doe. They're bigger bucks than I'd ever shot at. So they
were good sized bucks, and then but so you could see him. By the end of the day, that first day, he was just he was pretty beat up. He missed more than he should have.
Yeah.
And he's a good excellent shooter. And then we go out first thing Saturday morning, and literally 15 minutes after shooting light, he takes the first shot on a buck, spooks it up, whole herd, and they all just stop and turn broadside to him again. And second shot, he dropped it. Both lungs and the heart dropped right then. And that kid, I mean, Ron says, I think that's the first time I've ever seen your kid smile.
Oh, that's funny.
You know, and
it's
so
true though, man.
There's nothing better than taking a youth hunting. I think the big difference is, like, if I was to change something this year, is just to take all the pressure off. Because you're like, I guess if you want to take that shot, you can.
Yeah.
Like, it don't matter, you know? And then once he took all the pressure off, he's like, okay, it doesn't matter if I miss anyways.
Yeah, because, you know, and being up there, you're going to see more deer. You know,
Yeah.
they may not be, you know, your big bucks, but you're going to see more. So, and that's one thing about hunting is you're going to see them.
Well, that's for us, Ron, especially with the kids, since, man, Nevada's pretty nice because you can take a buck or a doe for a youth, right? Mm-hmm. So you can take anything. So we'll start our hunt out, and we're just looking for bucks, you know, and because those kids, most of the kids really want a buck, right?
Yes.
They want something to hang on their wall.
Yep.
They want a wall hanger, and so
no matter how big.
But we always know that come Sunday,
yes,
you can turn it off and we just take a doe and we fill the freezer. And Ron's really good with his kids. I'm good with my boy. We truly are not horn hunters. We hunt to fill our freezers.
Oh, I thought you meant about patience.
No, we don't have any patience, but and you know, I'm not going to lie. If I had a nice big buck come in front of me, I'm going to take that buck every time. But, but you know, that's not our primary purpose. We want to fill the freezer, and I want to have clean meat and organic meat that I can eat for the rest of the year. So I think if you go about it for that right reason, and these kids learn that I may miss, you know, because I'm excited and I get that adrenaline rush. I may have that issue, but there's always a chance to get another one. But we're not in an area. There's certain areas in Nevada. You're in an area where you're gonna see more deer.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just watching. I like, along with what Brian said, the meat is awesome, but just watching a kid be successful, or watching a kid be successful, or a new hunter be successful, like, I don't know. I've already talked about this on several different shows, but I love it, man.
It's a great thing, and I think that's why Ron and I,
It's a drug, man.
we gravitate towards the kids, and I think that's why Ron and I, with the youth program, Ron and I are looking at, or are in the middle of putting together, that's one of the reasons we did it, is because just that, going out with these kids, especially I'll be honest with you, it doesn't have to be a kid, a first-time hunter, because there's something about that first time when they do that, and they harvest an animal. And Ron, we took one of his girls out from his office, and you know, she was not a hunter at all, and it bothered her when she harvested that animal, the fact that that's what she did. And now she's begging, she can't wait to put tags in again.
And that antelope skull we did is still on her wall. She loves it. She thinks it's the best thing ever.
Because it's just, there's something about, hey, you're able to provide for yourself, right? So I know either my youngest son doesn't hunt, and it's not, he doesn't hunt because he doesn't like hunting. He doesn't hunt because he doesn't like getting up at 3:00 in the morning to go hunting.
I've got one of those.
So, but
you respect that.
But he can do everything he needs to do to be able to survive because he's been around it. We've raised chickens and goats and pigs and all that other stuff. So he knows what it is to survive. So he would have no problem if he needed to going out and providing food for him and his family. And I think that's a big part of it with these kids is society's taken that away from our kids. You know, it used to be every kid knew how to harvest an animal, just about. You know, the cities were smaller. You know, a lot of people were out on the country. Well, now we've concentrated everybody in those cities. And some of these kids think a horse is a cow.
Yes.
And
look at all those chickens.
Look at all those chickens.
I literally had a secretary that I brought eggs in one time from our chickens, and I'm like, hey Susan, would you like some eggs? And she goes, no. I'm like, they're really good, Susan. You won't get them at a grocery store. She goes, no, those eggs came from a chicken. Oh, and so I'm like, Susan, where do eggs come from? And she's like, the grocery store. Oh, boy. And then somebody cooked one of the eggs up, and she had some of those eggs. And then after that, it was like, hey, how many eggs can I get? You know,
way better than grocery store eggs. And you know what? It's true, man. It's the mentality is I can just go get it from the store. But I think you said organic. It doesn't get more organic than harvesting a deer or taking ducks. You know, if you want healthy meat for you and your family, harvesting a deer and a duck and a goose.
And you've cooked good duck after that McGanzer.
Oh yeah, man! Like chili, jerky, is just.
Jerky's awesome. I love duck jerky, man.
You still want my goose recipe? That I don't remember how I
know.
did.
Did he tell you that?
No.
I've been hounding him for his goose recipe for 2 years?
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know how I made it. I just threw stuff in there. I'm like, dude, it was legit. It was the best goose jerky I've ever had.
So we went out on that boat, and it was the first time we took the boat out. I made that goose jerky, and I don't know what I did.
Man, it was so good you put it in a sandwich.
See, that's what I did the last season. I had a bunch of duck left in the freezer, and I just jerked it all.
And I ate it all.
And Ron destroyed some jerky one night, and it was. But it's a really good, easy way to do it, and it lasts for a really long time. I think one of the greatest things is to be able to go out. You go on a morning hunt, or even afternoon hunt's better. If you can get some ducks in the afternoon, come home and just throw that duck breast right in the skillet for a couple minutes and just have super fresh. I mean,
that's the best way to do it.
It is, and you can do it. I mean, there's such abundant resources that we have access to, especially living in a state like Nevada where we can hunt ducks, we can hunt deer, we have elk. You name it, we just about hunt it here. Mm-hmm. And then we have so many lakes around us that you got striper, catfish,
great fisheries,
trout. We got some amazing fisheries in the state, and we're close enough here. We're lucky because we can go right across the border into Utah too, and they have some outstanding fisheries, and they have over the counter turkey, where our turkey tags are pretty tough in the state, but you have a lot of opportunity living in the state of Nevada that you don't have a lot of other states, and it's public lands.
Yeah, you're right.
That you can actually go hunt the public lands, and it's not everybody's locked up every private lease around you, so you don't have the opportunity to hunt. Yeah. So I think this is a place you can still. Hunting's not a cheap sport, no matter how you do it. But I think this is probably one of the most cost-effective hunts that you'll ever find because it's public land hunting, and so that's why Ron and I fight so bad for. We love the fact that we get to hunt on public lands, and being a public land duck hunter, we could get a lot more ducks if we went to a private lease somewhere and had it all to ourselves. But there's a lot more of a challenge, and you feel more accomplished when you actually have skybusters out there, and you may only get 3 ducks for the day, but man, the work you had to put in to get those 3 ducks was pretty aggressive.
All the competition.
So it is.
Yeah. Who's got a better spread? Who's got the the better call? Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm with you guys on there.
Hey, you're a big fisher, man. You going fishing soon?
It is, man. It's starting to warm up, man. The striper fishing is going to be excellent here in probably the next month or so. Man.
He always sends me pictures.
Striper fishing out of Lorenzi.
Just right out here at Echo, man. 35 minutes, you're in a ton of fish.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, your boys love to do that, don't they? Didn't you tell me one time your boys caught too many fish and they're like, I want to go home?
Yeah, man. We were sitting there one day and.
Wait, I don't think those words go together. Too many and fish.
So this was the conversation. We're just sitting there and all of a sudden my fish finder blows up and I'm talking. The whole screen was just covered, man. You couldn't see anything but blurs on this screen, and. We start dropping down jigs, and it was just one after another for like 45 minutes, man. And we were throwing them back because we were catching so many. And then my kids are like, "Hey, Dad, can we go swimming?" And I'm like, "You're gonna scare all the fish away." So they start jumping off the boat, doing cannonballs, and the fish are still there. So me and my wife are still fishing, and we're catching them. And then we eat lunch, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna throw my pole in again," and I'm catching more fish. And my wife's like, "My arm hurt. Can we go now?" And the kids are like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm catching too many fish. Let's go."
That's something that's crazy. You get
That's the best problem I've ever heard.
A good striper boil, man. It's just incredible.
So fun, man.
And striper, I mean, they're such an aggressive feeder that they will literally feed until they can't eat anymore, and then they'll puke up everything that was in their stomach so they can feed some more.
They did that for over an hour in the same spot. And they're such good eating fish, man. They're my favorite fish.
It's poor man's lobster right there. I mean,
it really is.
It is delicious.
And even, I mean, you don't even have to do a lot to it. I've had it in sashimi.
Ooh, that sounds good,
it was amazing. It was excellent. Really and good. So,
there's Jacob Fisk that went out with us. I took hunting for the first time this year. He's a big striper fisherman too, and he turned it into chorizo.
Well, that'd be good.
Striper chorizo.
But striper is such a mild fish, anyways. That it's just a good eating fish, and it's just like, I know a lot of people they'll throw all their bass back, right? So especially the biggies, they'll throw them back, and that's an excellent eating fish as well. It's just a good fish. It's a little bit more work to get to a lot of stuff on it.
Stop throwing the small ones back in Sunnyside. They need to.
Yeah.
You need to keep the small.
Well, and
ones.
there's a lot of places like, if you look at Texas, for instance, so a lot of the private landowners, they'll let you hunt or fish their ponds, but the rule is if it's under a certain size, you have to keep it. Because those lakes, they're getting so overpopulated that they can't grow them out to be big ones. But then Texas has a trophy program that's pretty unique. And what they do is, if you catch a certain size trophy fish, right, you donate that live fish to Texas Division of Wildlife, and they actually breed that fish.
Oh, that's cool.
Because the genetics of that fish allowed it to get big. And then when they're done breeding that fish, then you get that fish back. And so what they're doing is they're introducing that genetics into other places to bring big fish. So that's why you're seeing so many big bass come out of Texas, is because they've got an excellent breeding program brought on by the sportsmen, right? So how many sportsmen would you think are going to just go ahead and take my fish? Most of them aren't going to do that, but they've learned that it works to make a better fishery, and so they have sportsmen actually signing up to do that. So
kind of like Tim's kennel.
Yeah.
Exactly. You pick the best dogs and put them together, and that makes a great hunting dog.
It is like that.
It's the exact same concept, right?
It is, yeah.
And so you get a trophy fishery, relatively cheaply. I mean, it costs them a little bit for the breeding setups and stuff like that, but I think we have some issues with the way we do wildlife management sometimes. I think sometimes
what a government corporation makes a mess of things.
Just every once in a while.
No, I disagree with you.
You would. You're a liberal.
You're a liberal.
Yeah. Nope. Fake news.
Fake news.
But no, I think, and I think we can do a lot better. Even a duck thing. So the more ducks we ban, the more information we get on these ducks, and the better we can make decisions on how we manage that resource. And it's so we have to take scientific approaches. I think what happens a lot of times is on both sides of the aisle, we take an emotional approach to it. So the antis don't want anything to be killed, right? So they're not for taking any animals. And then the pro hunters, they just want to hunt. So it doesn't matter that the deer population is plummeting. I still want to draw a tag.
Yeah.
So they're pushing for more tags when we should be probably pulling back on our tags. And so I think it's both sides of it, you get a little bit of an emotional argument out of it. And I think if we actually just followed the science and did the scientific method on it, I think we'd be a lot better as a community. So,
yeah. Well, Tim, thanks so much for coming on, man.
No, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll have to have you on again. And,
please do.
I know there's a lot of these hunt trials and hunt tests around. There's a couple in Nevada. They're all over Arizona, California, and stuff like that. So, Tim probably could point you to those two, and for certain, go follow Tim's page, his Facebook page, All Around Retrievers, and hit his website up. And if you're in the market for a dog or even some dog training, get a hold of Tim. I think he's an excellent resource, and we appreciate you being on with us tonight, Tim. And just like every other time we talk, if you're going to go out this weekend and hunt, if you can, go ahead and take somebody with you. If you're going to take somebody with you, go ahead and teach them something. If you can't take them or teach them, make sure you hunt hard.